here's what I'm working on today for right now. It's late afternoon, so I'm trying to get as much as I can done before Robert gets home. I want to finish putting these furring strips up for below the windows and then start framing out this back wall. So we'll see how far I get.
We're the Martins, a blended family of 6. In January 2022, we bought a bus and began our journey toward tiny living, travel, creating a life we love, and establishing redemptive communities across North America. Come along with us as we build our bus, lead worship, and live a life of adventure on mission.
Just wanted to give you guys an update. There has been so much happening now that we've had nicer weather, and it's up and down. Some days it's really nice, some days it's really cold. Like I said before, welcome to South Dakota weather, where it changes on a daily, sometimes hourly basis. But as you can see, we've gotten the furring strips on the ceiling. We've gotten furring strips on the wall above and below the windows. And now I'm working on the furring strips that go from the chair rail up to the window. Now we did, after much debate, decided to double up on these ones so that we have 2 inches to, Robert was concerned about having 2-inch thick wood that would be strong enough to secure our walls, the perpendicular walls into, or be able to hang shelves on. He just really wanted it to be double strong. And we both agreed that the extra inch of depth would give us that much more. It gives us actually a full 3 inches from the skin of the bus to this interior wood edge. It's 3 inches. So when we do our spray foam, that will actually give us a 21 R value for insulation throughout our bus, which is really important to us because we're keeping the original bus windows, and we know that those are not very energy efficient. We are going to take them all out and scrape off the old epoxy and butyl tape and then apply new, so that will help it be more energy efficient. Sorry, kids are enjoying the 70-degree weather outside, so they're really loud. So that will help make them more energy efficient. We're also going to be deleting the windows where the kids' bunk beds are, just for security and privacy reasons, and it gives us another area that we can insulate. So that's kind of where we're at with everything. Our subfloor is done. The blue painter's tape is our floor plan taped out. So I'm really excited to have our floor plan taped out so we can kind of get used to the space and kind of see how it feels and just sit with it for a little while before we put up any permanent walls. It gets a little bit harder to move things around after walls are put up. So things we have left to do before we insulate are, we need to delete those windows I talked about and scrape and reset the windows we're keeping. We still have to put furring strips to kind of frame out that back wall, as well as this front wall area above the driver's cockpit. We're going to turn that into kind of a bookshelf area. I am a super book nerd. Obviously, we're a homeschool family, so collecting books is a big dang deal, and trying to decide which books stay and which ones go has been difficult. Like, definitely a project we've been avoiding. So this is kind of where we're at. Let's see, what else do we have? Before we put in insulation, we also have a friend coming over to help us rough in our electrical wiring. So that's really exciting. And then that's about it. And then once we insulate, then it'll be putting walls up and starting to actually build the floor plan, build the bunk beds, our bed, and start seeing our house come together. So super duper excited. can see, one of the steps that I did to kind of make this process easier was I pre-measured and cut all of these boards, and we're using 2x2s so that it matches up with the depth of the chair rail over here. Okay, so it's going to be the same depth as this apron below the window. I pre-measured and cut and then just came in and sized them up. I did find that each one is just a little bit different by as much as ½ an inch. So I had to double check my measurements as I went. And I'm not worried about them being exact because they are just furring strips. They're not going to be seen. They're going to be behind the walls and the plywood and all of that. I just need something to be able to screw into and something to give me depth for when we do our spray foam insulation. I kind of winged it, which my husband loves. But I figure at this stage, there's some things you can just wing it on. So some of them, it's like a 1/4 inch gap between the furring strip that's going vertical and the apron. That'll get filled in with spray foam insulation. And actually, wood only has like 1 to 1.5 R value for insulation, whereas the spray foam insulation, like I said, when it's at least 3 inches deep, it creates a moisture barrier, so we won't have to be fighting the condensation on our bus as much, hopefully, theoretically. So I want to get as much spray foam insulation on the surface as I can. We already have lots of wood to screw into, and so that's kind of how I'm doing this process anyway, is I've pre-cut everything. It's all laid up. My 9-year-old helped me match wood pieces to the best spaces, and now I'm just going through and I am pre-drilling, even though the screws we use do not require pre-drilling. I just find that it's a little bit easier on my back if I don't have to push through the wood and the metal. So we're using wood to metal screws that were recommended by the guy at Menards, which have been working like awesome. They're like butter. But I do find that pre-drilling does help just a little bit. So I am going through, you'll see me going through and pre-drilling. So I'm gonna get back to it.
Go. Point. Hammer.
Dig.
Dig.
Floor.
Jumping. Bunny.
Oh my god.
Kangaroo. Hey. Water.
Hula, Hawaiian.
Oh, hey.
Drum.